all this.
Tracy, we have no TV.
Okay. All right, I'd like to welcome everyone to our Oakwood Board of Education regular board meeting on today, September 11th, 2023. This is our call to order, and Ms. Sauber, could you please take the roll call?
Ms. DiLorenzo here, Ms. Kawhi here, Dr. Middleton here, Mr. Wilson.
Here. Thank you. Next is a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. My bad. Let's say the Pledge of Allegiance first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now, can I get a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Ms. Sauber?
Ms. DiLorenzo? Oh, I'm sorry. It was you. Ms. Kawhi, I'm sorry, Ms. Kawhi. Aye. Dr. Middleton. Aye. Ms. DiLorenzo. Aye. Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Next is the approval of, can I get a motion, please, to approve the Oakwood Board of Education regular meeting and work session minutes?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Sauber?
Dr. Middleton.
Aye.
Ms. DiLorenzo.
Aye.
Ms. Kawhi. Aye. Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Next up is superintendent accommodations and public comments.
Thank you. Good evening. First, I'd like to share some congratulations to Treasurer Laura Sauber and our hardworking department on receiving the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. They received the award of the district's annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2022. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting. So congratulations to you and your team. Is there anything you'd like to share?
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for the commendation. My staff works hard and tirelessly every day, for good results. And we're actually just starting the process for fiscal year 23 for that report. So it's an ongoing cycle every year, but thank you for that.
Thank you. Also, just to share some comments that across the country, the state and the county health officials are seeing an uptick in the number of people testing positive for COVID. I just wanted to remind everybody at Oakwood Schools, we're committed to providing quality learning opportunities for our students in a safe environment. So while there's no current mandates in schools for individuals exposed to COVID or testing positive, the district recommends following the current CDC guidelines to prevent the spread of the disease. So those guidelines include isolation, masking, and avoiding contact with people who are at high risk of getting very sick if you've been exposed to or tested positive for COVID. There's a link to the CDC guidelines that can be found on our district website by going to the health services page. And we'll continue to do our part to keep our buildings clean and well ventilated. We ask that our students and staff who are sick, to ask them to stay home and recuperate before returning to school. The health and wellness of our students, staff, and community still continue to remain a priority for our schools. And then finally, I'd be remiss if we just didn't take a little bit of time today. It's September 11th. It's also Patriot Day. It gives us a chance to reflect on the devastating terror attacks that took nearly 3,000 lives. So we commemorate those who've lost and give thanks to the brave first responders who put their lives on the line. I thought we could just take a moment just to kind of put them in your thoughts and just take about a couple seconds, minutes for that. Okay, thank you.
Next up is public comments. You go first.
Okay, great. Thank you for letting me come again. I always like coming here and meeting you guys. I'm here for about suicide prevention. As you know, yesterday was Suicide Prevention Awareness Day, and if you didn't know, it was. And this is Suicide Prevention Month. And so I just feel like it is so important to support you guys and thank you tremendously from the bottom of my heart for all the things you are doing for our students and focusing on the whole child. I read your blogs, I love them, and I really loved your reply in the paper last week, or your article, the quote about Oakwood is more than AP scores. I remember when I used to be PTO president and people would talk about, well, we've dropped, 2 schools or whatever. I was like, yeah, but they're looking at AP scores. Oakwood is so much more than AP scores, right? And you touched on that, so thank you. And the new thing that Oakwood is more than, which I think is a leader of, and I really commend all of you for the mental health, excellence, because I'm part of the Montgomery County Prevention Coalition that gives those, and I shouldn't know the name of them, but that was great. And not every school gets those. And this whole emotional, social learning is so important for mental health for all kids. And I'm gonna have to give my statistic that I give every time because it's so important. We focus so much on school shootings, and they're terrible. But they have taken about less than 200 students in 20-something years, and 5,200 youth die every year by suicide. So it's really important for us to think about what's important. I'm not saying school shootings are not, but everything's important and every child's important, and thank you for doing it. So my last gift to you is some artwork by some of our open students as well as some other students in the district. We have these posters from our gym contest, and you may have seen these already because being a school of excellence, you may already have these, but they're huge. I don't know where the camera is. So they're really cool. Have you seen these? Isn't this great? So this actually wasn't even one of our winners, but we love this piece. So the artwork gets used and we put them around. So this was one. I'll show you the Oakwood students, but we're going to start our contest again, and you'll probably hear from me again next month. But we have window clings, and we also have coasters, and on the back are the QR codes. Even Greene County Career Tech had some winners in there. And then we have the, this is our student. Sorry about the napkin. This is this was Sasha Gusteve. And so we use these are postcards, because one of the things we have learned is if someone is struggling with mental health issues and they see a doctor or a mental health professional, a teacher, a friend, if they get a written response within, I think it was something like 6 months, their rates go down by 50%. That's huge. So all we have to do is reach out and talk to people, and these cards go out. So I've probably gone over my 3 minutes, but I really appreciate all of you, and I'll leave these with Tracy. And if you want more of these, you know where you can get them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Hopefully coming in all the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've got to go, but thank you so much for all you guys do.
Thank you. And at 5,200 kids a year, that's certainly, it's an all hands on deck.
Well, and we were all in a crisis at the crisis center, because we had 3 deaths at the very beginning, as many of you know, just this year, students in local schools. So we are now, our prevention coalition is a really amazing group, and we're now looking at ways to help the surviving, or we call it suicide loss survivors, people who've lost someone to suicide. And that includes teachers, students, anyone who remotely knows them, but also family members. And we just had a long meeting this morning about what we're going to do. So hopefully we'll have some post-vention we can provide in schools soon, because I know that's something that's needed.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.
Okay.
Bye. All right, next up is our curriculum showcase. Yes, I'll take this one. Kimby Lang is unable to be here tonight, or she would be sharing this information. We've got high school social studies teachers, Matt Dieters and Alex Broward, that created the Lumberjack Lecture Series. It's aimed to introduce students to a wide array of speakers
enabling them to related to their education, to practical situations, to perceive real world uses for their studies. The series originated as a method to involve alumni, community members, and staff in student engagement. And their objective for the series is to spark inspiration and drive in students by inviting accomplished experts and captivating speakers to our school, giving them a platform to impart their knowledge, firsthand encounters and perspectives. The lectures, they're held during the lunch hours. They're open to junior high and high school students, and they're accessible, says to all high school students, but I know junior high students also were there. I'm a little bit excited about this because I was asked to be the first one. So I think we're gonna watch a video and then I'll share a little bit after that.
Think about this as an achievement. So I got it's preschool, all grade, all buildings, and all our principals and everybody else, kind of stay on track and what they need. Obviously, instruction and learning and curriculum and assessment is documented a lot.
A new program at Oakwood High School is exposing students to new ideas and experiences. The Lumberjack Leadership Series is the brainchild of OHS teachers Matt Dieters and Alex Brohard. The pair came up with the idea last year when they were looking for a way to help students connect what they are learning in the classroom with the real world. The series kicked off in August with inaugural speaker, Oakwood Schools Superintendent, Dr. Neil Gupta.
In high school and in college and everywhere else. I didn't like working on teams with people. They got in my way. They didn't agree with everything I wanted to do. It was just allowing me to fight against my own thing.
Students and staff were on hand to hear Dr. Gupta talk about his current role as the leader of Oakwood Schools, but also important lessons he has learned throughout his career.
I wanted to meet Dr. Gupta. He's seemed like a nice person. I actually bumped into him while he was supporting the school the very first time he came here. And I thought he was a nice person, and I wanted to get to know like what he wanted to do with the school.
Organizers Dieters and Brohard are planning to bring in a diverse group of speakers from different fields to share their expertise and experiences. OJH Principal Tim Badenhoff attended the first lecture series and was pleased with the student turnout. He says it's evidence Oakwood Schools students are looking to make connections to prepare for the future.
Obviously, with anything new, there's the risk of just taking that first step and making sure that students have an opportunity they haven't had before. So we're going to see what it shapes into. But based on the participation that we had today, I really think our students are invested. They want to learn more about how to lead. They want to listen to people who've been there before. And I'm just excited for the messages that they're going to take away throughout the series.
I was honored to be the first one for this school year to share with our students. We actually have the next one this coming Wednesday, and Judge Newman is coming in, and I'm really excited for them to get a chance to meet a federal judge and understand more of the role that he plays. And we're lucky to have him in our community and being able to share with our students.
All right, thank you. What an awesome opportunity. And kids giving up their lunch to come in and, listen to a speaker series, so.
Yeah.
And how often does that happen? Do you know, is it once a month?
I think it's about every 3-4 weeks, but
Okay.
yeah, I think depending on, they're right now trying to, muster up as many people to kind of come in and talk from lots of different angles and perspectives.
Yeah, okay, fantastic. All right, next up is board reports. Do we have any? No? Okay, no board reports this month. Wow, all right. Next up is budget and finance.
Thank you. The first item A is asking for your approval to approve the substitute classified pay rates. This would be effective September 25th. We made a couple of changes to our custodian pay rate, also paraprofessionals and administrative assistants. We've been having some trouble getting people to come and fill those because of where our level of pay was. So we did a comparison of the county area and have increased those slightly. We're still actually under the average in the county, but this will help us be able to fill those substitute positions.
Recommendation is made for item 5A. Can I get a motion?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Sauber?
Dr. Middleton? Aye. Ms. DiLorenzo? Aye. Ms. Kawhi?
Hi.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you. Item B, there's been a lot of conversation and a lot of talk about the property reappraisal in Montgomery County, and so I wanted to give you some information tonight and have some slides to kind of go through that process and what it means for Oakwood. So I think just to start, let's talk about what is a property reappraisal. So every 3 years, we either go through a full property reappraisal or a triennial update. So the full reappraisal, the auditor's office actually puts eyes on your property. So they're in the neighborhoods, they're actually out, not in your homes, but they are out looking at all of the properties. That happened for Montgomery County in 2020. 2023 now is what's called a triennial update. And that is taking the sales data and market data, and it's setting the properties up with what is happening in the housing market. And so that people have received notices of that. There's a lot of information on the county auditor's website. I encourage people to go take a look at that. And again, I think an important piece here is that this is not an Oakwood Schools process. We have nothing to do with this. Every township in the county, every city in the county, every school district in the county, libraries and parks, anybody with a tax base is going through this property reappraisal and is it impacted by this. So the auditor's website has a great page, and I linked that in this presentation. And I also would like to take 90 seconds so that you can hear directly from the auditor's office. This is a video that I believe has been aired on the news, but we want to show that tonight.
The Montgomery County Auditor's Office is conducting the state-required triennial update of property values. We are adjusting values based on recent sales in your neighborhood. Over the past 3 years, Montgomery County's real estate market has been off the charts, and now our property values are catching up to the rising home prices seen across the state and country. The state-mandated increase in home values reflects growth in the housing market at a rate we've never seen before. As a result of these record high sales prices, property owners should expect to see record-setting property value increases with this triennial update. We know that many property owners are concerned about how rising home values will impact property taxes. While it's true that many property owners will see an increase in their taxes, you should know that taxes will not increase at nearly the same rate as values. In Montgomery County, we don't just value properties, we value fairness. This summer, we will be mailing out notices of new values to all property owners. If you disagree with your property value, we welcome you to meet with us to discuss your property in detail. If you would like to schedule a Zoom or telephone call with one of our appraisers, please visit our website, ncreval.org, to find a convenient time for you. To look up your property's new value or to learn more, please visit ncreval.org. The Montgomery County Auditor's Office is conducting the state-required.
So here are the questions that I'm hearing, some from you, some from community members. I'm hearing the treasurers throughout the county. We're all talking about these things that are happening with the reappraisal. So the first thing I want to talk about is how much is Oakwood Schools property value increasing? Know that these are tentative values. None of this will be finalized until December. You've heard in the video that if you have questions or if you disagree with the property value that the auditor has assigned, you have an opportunity to contact the auditor's office, not the district, but the auditor's office, to talk about that. And so that's why we won't have final values until December. So for residential values in the district, that percentage increase is tentatively 27%, and then almost 30% for commercial value. So as a whole, as a district, we're looking at a 27.2% increase in property value. I don't anticipate that that will change much. It's possible it could be just slightly higher or slightly lower, just based on just the process that's happening at the auditor's office over the next couple of months. So the next question is, does a 27.2% increase in our property value mean that as a district, we're going to collect 27.2% more in property tax revenue? And the answer to that is no. I'm going to get into House Bill 920 in a little bit more detail here in a minute. But because of House Bill 920, the voted levies in the district will have a lower effective rate because of the increase in value. And again, we're going to talk about that in a little more depth. Next question though is, do we receive any additional revenue from an increase in property value? And the answer to that is yes. So there's a small portion of what we receive that's called inside millage, and that grows with property value. It also decreases if property values decrease, but we're obviously in a period of large increases in property value. So that is a proportionate tax to whatever the property value is doing. It's very small for Oakwood. It's not a big increase. The other area that we could see additional revenue is new construction. We're pretty landlocked, so there's not a lot of new construction happening. So we don't see a lot from new construction, but that is the other area that we get additional revenue. And it's important to note that the 5-year forecast that you approved back in May did factor in an increase in property value, which was a slight bump in that inside millage. And so we've been planning for this and factoring that into our projections over the last couple of years. So I want to address, so that's inside millage, and that's a very small portion of our revenue. I want to address what happens during reappraisal with our voted levies, which is the majority of our property taxes. So House Bill 920 kicks in. House Bill 920 is legislation that has been in effect since 1976, and its sole purpose is to prevent taxpayers from experiencing large increases in their tax bill when values go up. So an important piece before we move to the next slide is that voted mills don't equal effective mills. Okay, voted mills are what was on the ballot for all the individual levies. Effective mills are what is currently being taxed from the auditor's office. And so those numbers don't match. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that. So as I mentioned, effective millage, it's not the same as voted millage. It's an inverse relationship. So as our property values go up, the effective rates of all of those voted levies reduces or is lowered so that we continue to collect the same amount of money as a district. We collect the same amount of money on those levies. And so a couple of examples, because it's staggering the difference. In 1988, a 4.5 mil levy for operations was voted in the district. That today is currently being collected at 1.58 mils. It's because since 1988, the value has increased over time. And because we can't ever collect more on that one levy, the effective rate continues to be reduced over time. The more recent levy, the 4.99 mils of operations back in 2019 that was voted in is currently being collected at 4.53. Now, when the values are set, all of the rates of all of the voted levies will adjust even lower. So that 1.58 effective rate and the 4.53 mils that are the examples that I've shown you tonight, those will be even lower so that we continue to collect the same amount of money on those voted levies.
Just a quick question while you went through it. All this helpful information, is this available?
Yes,
Right
we'll-
now, like on this will be posted.
Absolutely.
And people could take time to look at all the
Yes,
information.
yes, we posted a
Okay.
lot of this information
Okay.
on our website
Okay.
already, but we will put this, we'll have a recording, obviously, of
Right.
this meeting. And yes, this
Awesome.
presentation will be available to the
That's
public
great.
to see as well.
Thank you.
So the last point that I want to cover about property value is, does this reappraisal impact every taxpayer the same? So as I mentioned, we have a 27.2% increase in total value throughout the community. That's an average, okay? But some homes are going to increase at different levels. I think everybody's going to probably see an increase, but some homes might go up 40%, and some homes might go up 15%. They look at individual neighborhoods, they look at sales data in those neighborhoods and comparison values to get those individual new values. And so does the reappraisal impact each taxpayer the same? The answer to that is no. And so it depends on how much your home increases in comparison to the neighborhood next to you or the neighborhood next to that. And so if your home increases 27%, then on those voted levies, you're gonna pay about the same that you're currently paying, because that's the average. If your home goes up at a higher rate, so if you're a 40% increase or a 45% increase person, you're gonna see an actual increase, because some of that burden is the tax burden is being shifted because your home went up more than the average. There will be people who have lower taxes. And we don't typically hear about that or talk about that, because nobody's gonna complain about paying, a lower tax bill. But if your value goes up 15% and the average is 27%, your actual taxes will go down, because everybody's paying the same effective rate. And again, that effective rate is based on the average. It's very complex. It's very difficult to understand. And I recommend that people, if they have questions about their individual home value, contact the county auditor's office. They will answer your questions. They will explain it to you, and why your property went up a certain percentage compared to someone else's. They can explain all of that. I know all the basics, and enough to talk to you about it. But I can't help with individual tax bills, and that's the auditor's role. So I thought it was important that we cover this topic, because everybody by now has gotten that notice in the mail. And I'm hearing a lot of questions about it. So I wanted to be sure that we covered that this evening. Any other questions on the property reappraisal? Okay, so item C then on the agenda is the normal treasurer's report that you're accustomed to seeing. However, I do want to cover a couple of other pieces that are being talked about a lot in the treasurer's world, and that the board should be aware of. And then I also want to end with covering the specifics of Oakwood's levy that's on the ballot in November. So the first thing is the auditor of state has released guidance on or clarifications, I guess, on what school officials are allowed to do and not allowed to do regarding levy campaigns. Laws have not changed. The laws are still the same, but because of a court case from an area school district where a superintendent and board members were charged, they had criminal charges brought against them for a 2019 levy for not following those laws. And so because of that, the auditor of state's office has stepped in, and they've tried to provide us with guidance on what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. That guidance is 22 pages long, but it's really, it's a lot of general themes that we're going to touch on here in a minute. But it's really a good document that we can actually link it on our website as well, so that the community is aware of these pieces as well. But there are questions and scenarios. They give answers on if you're allowed to do or not allowed to do things. And then they talk a lot about best practices on things that, you should consider and think about as a school district official. And we're all school district officials sitting here, whether you're a board member, an administrator, a teacher, a custodian, it doesn't matter. We're all district officials, and we all have to abide by these rules. The other piece that's important to know, and I've listened to a lot of webinars, Dr. Gupta's listened to a lot of webinars. We have made sure to try to educate ourselves as best as what we can. The Auditor of State's office and our legal counsel is advising us to talk to you about this and to talk to the community and the staff about this. So I presented some of this information at our opening day with our whole staff to make sure that they were aware of what's appropriate and not appropriate regarding a levy campaign. So the 22 pages, I feel like can be summarized in 4 points. And the first one is district officials can provide neutral, accurate, and factual information at any time. So this evening, I'm going to provide you with that factual information. I can talk about that. Any district official can talk about that any time of the day or night, no matter what setting they're in. They can talk about neutral, factual information. The second piece is that district officials can engage in campaign activity while they're not being compensated by the district. And it has to be at their own expense. So everyone has a First Amendment right. And they were very clear about that in the guidance that every person has a First Amendment right but it can't be done while the official is being compensated. So for example, board members, you're being compensated at the board meeting. That is when you're compensated. Any time outside of a board meeting, you can advocate for or against the levy however you see fit as an individual. It becomes a little grayer with people who are doing things at different times of the day. Administrative, for example, the high school principal is at a lot of after school activities and he's there in his job role. He's acting in his job role. So it just becomes a little more difficult with some positions. One of the examples that they give is at a Friday night football game, the football coach cannot wear a t-shirt or a button that is advocating for or against the levy. He's on the clock, so to speak, right? He's being compensated to be there at the football game. Whereas a second grade teacher that's at the football game and is cheering on her son out on the football field is not on the clock. You know, she's there as a parent, as a community member. And so there's you gotta be able to judge whether the person is on the clock or not on the clock. And it's the individual, the district officials' burden to show that as well. So you can imagine with some positions where that just gets a little muddy, you know, on where that happens. The next point is that district officials cannot use district resources to advocate for or against the levy. We can't use the district computers. We can't use the email system. We can't use our bulk mailing thing. We can't stick flyers in backpacks and send home with students. We can send factual information home, but we can't send anything home that advocates for or against the levy. So district resources cannot be used. And actually the fourth point is just to reiterate again, as district officials, we cannot advocate for or against the levy while we're being compensated by the district. And so I think it's worth just rephrasing that in a different way, because the guidance kind of talks about it in both lenses, while they're being compensated and while they're not being compensated. So again, that's an important piece. So there's still a lot of gray area. Not everything's defined, but I believe that the guidance helps a little bit with what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do as district officials. So moving on then to the Oakwood Schools levy facts, I want to just first say that this information here is being presented as merely factual. I am not allowed to advocate for or against the levy during times in which being compensated by the district. And so I just want to say that up front that this is factual information. So we do have a combination levy on the ballot on November 7th. I mentioned it is a combination levy. 5.75 mils of the levy ask is for operating expenses and 1 mil is for permanent improvement expenses. It will be it's 2 parts, 1 vote. So just to clarify that as well. The levy will generate $2.5 million per year in additional revenue. 2.1 million of that will be for the day-to-day operating expenses. That's the 5.75 mils. And then 373, that million, it should say thousand, I'm sorry. $373,000 of the ask is for permanent improvement expenses. And that's the 1 mil portion of the combination levy. The cost to the taxpayer has been certified by the county auditor to be $236 per $100,000 of home value. And the final question that I want to address with this, because I've gotten this question a lot, is will the property reappraisal, all the things that we just talked about with the reappraisal, will the property reappraisal change the amount the district will receive if the levy passes and if that comes on the tax duplicate? The answer to that is no. We will continue to receive the $2.5 million in total that the Montgomery County auditor certified. We talked about House Bill 920 and how when property values go up, effective rates reduce. That will happen automatically right away with this levy if it passes in November. So we will not receive more than the $2.5 million that the auditor has certified. That's what I have for you this evening.
Any questions?
I do have a question, with all of this. So what effect does the unpredictability of the state education funding have on our budget?
So the state funding is actually predictable. Instead of being unpredictable, it's actually predictable in that we aren't getting additional revenue from the state. The newest simulations from the new budget bill is that we will get an additional $11,000 this year in state funding. That is flat state funding. So the amount of funding we get is actually very predictable. The piece that's unpredictable, that we as the administration and therefore the board have to deal with is the unfunded mandates that become a part of that state budget bill. And Dr. Gupta, can you speak to a few of those pieces from this budget bill?
Sure. I guess I'll first go back and give a great example of, I guess, some of these unfunded mandates that we sometimes, use the phrase, in a negative way that benefit our students. That's what the point is. It's just that there's the ask, I think, either by the state or federal government that the burden of the finances then fall onto the local district in this situation, the local dollars. But number of years ago, College Credit Plus, for example, it's a great concept of students being able to get early access to get College Credit Plus classes. It's at the district's expense, and we've seen an increase in that each year. But in the recent budget bill, and I guess prior to, has been peace officer training that we've got to provide to our students. So curriculum is being developed for that, and then we'll be instituting that through classrooms. Financial literacy is another set of curriculum with resources that we'll have to purchase or so that we abide by that rule that before students graduate. Also recently through the governor was the science of reading. And so we've gone through extensive professional development through that and continue to do that. Computer science, I think there's still questions on possible licensure that would have to happen so that we would be able to provide computer science. And then just even, last week I received an email, this is now the federal government, that there could be a decrease in our Title I funds and the elimination of Title IIA. So some of the federal grants that we've used for a very, very long time and most often is used for salaries and benefits. My guess is we would still want to provide those resources to our students that are providing that great service to them. Would then fall into our general fund.
So additional mandated programs, but no additional funds from the state to implement those pieces. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, section 6, any unfinished business by the board? Any new business by the board? Next up is number 8, administrative reports and superintendent recommendations.
Okay, 8A is just informational. Just want to let you know that we will have our yearbook 2 students going to a journalism, I guess, conference in Orlando. I did look over the paperwork, ask some questions about that. There was you'll see that it's a September 22nd to 24th. That's happening at the end of this month. Everything's in order, so just appreciate that. It's tied to the class. The success of the class is the students going to this, and then it becomes something that they will work on then throughout the year. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. I guess I do want to let you also know that not only do we keep the paperwork on file in our office at the district level, but also it goes on my calendar. I always kind of get a little making sure our kids are safe at times and want to make sure I know where our students are. So I'll kind of be able to kind of keep attuned to the news and keep my ears open of things happening in Orlando and obviously cheering them on too for the learning that they're going to have. Letter B is also informational. It's a declaration is made to declare it impractical to transport students not enrolled in Oakwood schools. This is standard that we have, and again, not just in Oakwood, but across school districts that we provide that list for students, school of attendance that's charter, non-public, or community schools, and that's part of Ohio Revised Code. Letter C, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion. I'd like to combine all in one, under number 8, letters C through F. I'll just read them and then President can call to vote. Letter 8C is a resolution for declaring the transportation to be impractical. Letter D, recommendation is to approve the updated 2023-24 school district calendar. What that does is that modifies our school calendar to put a no school professional learning day on April 8th, 2024. We have a total eclipse happening in especially the Dayton area. And from a safety factor, we're going to go ahead and do that. Pending your approval, we'll make sure that gets communicated out to our staff and our families tomorrow. Letter E is recommendation to approve the supplemental index. Letter F is a recommendation to approve the following job description, which does add a approve the following job description, and then job description. And then which is an update to the Director of Alumni Association.
Can I get a motion for numbers 8C through 8F?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Sauber?
Ms. Kawhi,
Aye.
Dr. Middleton,
Aye.
Ms. DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Next is personnel items, resignations and non-renewals.
Okay. So here we are with number 9. I'll take all for one motion, letters A through F. To read them, it's letter A is the recommendation to accept resignation of Caitlin Brown from her position as the Alumni Association Director. She will go till just right after our Distinguished Alumni Awards banquet. She's done a great service for us, and just we appreciate all the help. And we've been collaborating with her through the transition, and pending approval, we've posted the position and we'll continue to look for qualified applicants. Letter B is to accept the resignation of Kate Boyer, educational aide. Letter C, recommendation to accept the resignation of Mr. Coons as a van driver. Letter D, recommendation to accept the resignation of Mr. White as custodian. Letter E, the resignation, acceptance of Andrew Knoll as custodian at Smith Elementary. And then letter F, recommendation to accept the following supplemental resignations for the 23-24 school year.
Can I get a motion for numbers 9A through 9F?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sauber?
Ms. DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Ms. Kawhi,
Aye.
Dr. Middleton,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Number 10 is personnel item recommendations. Dr. Gupta?
Yes, for this one also, just as the past one, I'll take one motion under items 10A through 10F. The recommendation under A to employ Mr. Coyle as a van driver. Letter B, Mr. Morgan as a custodian. Letter C, Mr. McDaniel as the custodian at Smith for employment. Letter D is the recommendation to approve the following supplemental contracts for the 23-24 school year. Letter E is the recommendation to employ the following staff members to supervise Saturday school and detentions for the 23-24 school year at the established rate. And then finally, letter F is to approve the attached list of substitutes effective September 11th today, pending completion of required documents.
All right, can I get a motion, please, for, we'll kind of call it letters, D, A through DF?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Sauber?
Dr. Middleton,
Aye.
Ms. Kawhi,
Aye.
Ms. DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Next is executive session. Need a motion to move into executive session. Recommendation is made for specific purpose of considering the employment and discipline of a public employee or official. A motion, please.
So moved. Second.
Ms. Sauber?
Ms. DiLorenzo,
Aye.
Dr. Middleton,
Aye.
Ms. Kawhi,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye. Thank you all very much for attending the meeting today, the public facing part. Appreciate you being here. And we'll be here next month doing it all over again.
Yeah.